Hi everyone, today we'll learn how to obtain the median from a given curve. So let's say we have a table where the marks distribution is given and this CF stands for the cumulative frequency of number of students. Now we need this to create a ogive curve. So now let's understand what median is. So median is defined as the middle value in a data set. Or what the median does is it divides the data set into two equal parts. Such that we can say that from the median, there would be half of the people who would score greater than equal to the median marks, and the other half would be scoring less than equal to the median marks. It divides the dataset into exact half. So if in this dataset, the cumulative frequency in the end is 53, that means the total number of observations or total number of students are 53. And so if you're dividing the dataset in half the number of students would be n divided by 2. So we have marks scored by n by 2 students. That number of marks is the median. And how do we calculate that? The easiest way to calculate that would be to create a less than ogive, because it makes the graph between the cumulative frequency and the marks. So it is the easiest to pinpoint the n by 2 in the cumulative frequency, and whatever the marks we get from that curve can be the median marks. For less than ogive, the points here would be taken such that the upper boundary is taken in the x coordinate and the cumulative frequency is taken in the y coordinate. Alright, so we have a points here. So let's take our points here and let's just make a less than ogive. So this is our graph. This would be the x-axis with marks and the y-axis would have cumulative frequency. Then we can just plot these points. So we have these points here like this, and then just need to connect the points to create the ogive. And this is a less than ogive. And you can see this is a direct correlation between the cumulative frequency and the marks. So now if we just need to figure out the n by 2 cumulative frequency, here n is 53 students, so our n by 2 is equal to 26.5. So let's make the line 26.5 here. And we can see this cuts the ogive in this point. So if we drop the perpendicular from here, and this is 66.4, which tells me that since this is the less than curve, and I'm saying that this is n by 2 26.5, that 26.5 students are scoring less than 66.4. But since it is the exact half, I can also say that 26.5 students are scoring more than 66.4. So that means that 66.4 is our median, because half of the class scores less than equal to 66.4 marks and the other half scores greater than equal to 66.4 marks. And that's why 66.4 has to be the median. And you see how convenient it is with a less than ogive curve. So now our first question should arise, can we also do it with a more than ogive curve? So let's see. Let's try constructing the more than ogive curve first. So for that, let's take our points for more than ogive curve. Now we take points such that the x coordinate will have the lower boundary, n is 53 students, and the y coordinate would be the total frequency, which is 53, minus the cumulative frequency of the previous class. So here it's 0, 53. The second point would be 10, the lower boundary, 48, which is total frequency 53 minus 5. And so on. These are the points that we will get. And now all we need to do is take these points and make a more than ogive curve. So again, let's take our graph. We have our axis, marks class, and the cumulative frequency. And this is the more than ogive points. So these are our points. We can plot it. And now all we need to do is connect them to give us the graph. So this is a more than ogive curve. And while directly from this, we can't figure out what the median is, but there's a beautiful trick here. What if we superimpose the less than ogive curve on this more than ogive curve? So let's see. And now let's take our less than ogive points. So we had this one, this one, this one, this one, here, 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 and here. And let's connect them. So this is our less than ogive that we saw earlier. This yellow one is a more than ogive. And the point of intersection of both these curves, the width of the perpendicular from the intersection point, that is our median. And as you can see, this is 66.4, which was the median as we calculated before. And this here, this also corresponds to 26.5, which was the n by 2 that we calculated before, which says that half of the class is less than and half of the class is more than. And why it makes sense to take the intersection of the more than ogive curve and the less than ogive curve is simply because the less than ogive curve goes from smaller to the highest frequency 53 to n, whereas the more than ogive curve goes from n is equal to 53 to less. And so somewhere in the middle, if they are both intersecting, it has to be in the n by 2, because this goes from 0 to n and this goes from n to 0. So their intersection has to be n by 2. Another way to understand is a more than ogive curve gives us idea about greater than equal to marks. As in, if we are looking at this point 10, 48, then we can say that there are 48 students who have got more than 10 marks. Whereas a less than ogive will tell us the less than marks. So if we are taking 90, 45, we are saying that 45 students have scored less than 90 marks. So if this tells about greater than equal to marks and this tells about less than marks, then the point at which they are intersecting. And so the marks at the intersection point would be the same for both the curves. And that means that at that mark, half of the students have gotten marks greater than that mark and half of the students have gotten marks less than that mark. And in this intersection point, the marks is denoted by the x coordinate. And the marks are denoted on the x-axis. So the marks of the intersection point would be when we drop a perpendicular from this point, and that corresponding point on the x-axis, which is 66.4, would definitely be the median. So that is why we got two methods to figure out what the median can be. And let's recap it. The first method was to simply find n by 2 and make a less than ogive curve and plot this on the less than ogive curve. Then the foot of the perpendicular on the x-axis would give us the median. And the second way to find the median is to find the intersection point of both the less than and more than ogive curve. We'll plot of them simultaneously on the same graph. And then the foot of the perpendicular on the x-axis of the intersection point would give us the median. So that is how we find the median from the ogive curves. And that's all about it. Thank you.